Evening, perhaps for some. I am delighted to introduce to you the very first session of the new season for the World Percussion Group 2023 VTOR. We've got some amazing coaches. I think there's about 25 sessions in total over the next 3 months. You can view all of these online on YouTube and Facebook and catch up with all the sessions as they happen in real time. We've got some Xenakis project happening with Garrett Mendelow as well alongside, and they will be showcased in the final showcase concert at the end of the 3 months in July, where we've got some amazing coaches as well. Today's slightly different in the fact that we were supposed to have Vanessa Porter, but unfortunately she's not able to be with us. So we've got a guest coach today. It's really great of Elliott to step in to do this. Elliott Gaston-Ross is a British percussionist and was indeed involved in WPG 2021, for those of you that watched that. So just a quick welcome to Elliott. Elliott, I don't know if you could maybe just sort of talk a little bit about yourself and what you're up to.
Yes, I'm a British percussionist. I studied, I did my undergrad and my postgrad in Austria, in Linz. And I've been back in the UK now for a year. I've done a postgrad advanced diploma at the Royal Academy of Music, and I'm freelancing here as a soloist and an orchestral percussionist.
Yeah, fantastic. And I don't know if you can maybe talk a little bit about your sort of successes in competition as well.
Yes, during my time in Austria, I did quite a number of international competitions. One which I'm sure most percussionists are aware of, the Trump International Percussion Competition, which is an amazing platform and it's a brilliant opportunity. I'd highly advise all young percussionists to get involved and have a crack at that. And yeah, there are many things on the horizon as well, which I'll be going for, which I won't mention just yet, just in case. But yeah, it's busy times.
Busy time. All right. Well, thanks again for agreeing to step in, Vanessa. Really appreciate it. So we're going to start with our first WPG artist of 2023, and this is going to be Hoi Yin. So welcome, Hoi Yin. Hi, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Good, great. Well, first of all, congratulations for making it onto the program. I'm really looking forward to what you are going to offer for everyone. I didn't know if perhaps you could spend just a couple of minutes, just as it's the first session, just talking about yourself. That would be really cool.
Okay, so I am originally from Hong Kong, and I've come over to the UK to study at the Royal College of Music as an undergraduate. It's my first year here, and I mainly do marimba, but I am looking forward to branching out to different aspects of solo percussion. Yep.
Great. Okay, so the first piece that you're going to showcase today is Casey Cangelosi's Bad Touch. And I don't know if you want to just say a little bit about the piece for anyone that hasn't seen it before.
So Bad Touch is a theatrical percussion piece, and it only utilizes one drumstick with a performer performing it entirely in the dark, apart from a spotlight. And it is played along with tape, and in the tape there are various sounds which evoke the atmosphere of extraterrestrial extraterrestrial environments, and also has some hallucination effects in it, which is, I think, a really cool piece and really challenges me to have that emotional detachment from the entire piece overall, which is basically the opposite of what I normally do when I'm playing.
Yeah, great. All right then, so this is just a message for everyone when the performances are happening and in general. If you could just make sure you're on mute, please, that would be great. And then I'll bring you on after performance. Elliott, I've actually got you in the corner of my screen in a minute, so if you want to put your hand up when you've sort of finished listening to various aspects, then do, or I'll just stop it after a certain period of time. All right. Okay, so let's cue this to go up.
Characteristics, your concepts of right and wrong. It was like I was caught in something that I had no control over. I had absolutely no say-so as to what was happening.
The guy I killed intended to kill me, so I killed him before he managed to kill me. He tried, but he failed miserably. Obviously, he's dead.
I can't tell you about it. If you can't see it, then you'll just never know it. Can you see it? It's right here in front of me, right now. Watch.
Which is almost of a separate entity inside.
I'm part of it. Can't you see it?
Someone else's eyes is far, far weirder than you think.
And the dimensions and all the prisms and the rays and everything coming down through you and moving.
Someone else's eyes is far, far weirder than you think.
It's here. It's here. It's here. I'm part of it. Can't you see it? It passed right through. Me? I'm living in me. I can't tell you about it. If you can't see it, then you'll just never know.
All right. Well done, fantastic. Elliott, over to you.
Well, first of all, congratulations. That's absolutely fantastic performance of that piece. I think you got exactly the right style, and exactly the right sort of character and the movements. Technically, you have everything down. Looking at the score to the piece, it seems that the composer has written it in such a specific way that he hasn't really left much room for interpretation. I've never played this piece myself, but I know that a lot of recordings exist, and I've seen, I think I've seen a live performance at one point of the piece. But because everything's so precisely written, and if you look at the score and its times, and he wants very specific movements at very specific times, there isn't much room for interpretation. But I think, having said that, you've still grasped the correct character of the piece, which is this, as you said before, the emotional detachment, sort of robotic nature of the piece. And I think that's exactly what the piece calls for. But having said that, there are certain things that you can still do to take it even one step further and make it even more exaggerated. So, I mean, the first thing I wanted to ask was what your approach was actually to learning such a piece and interpreting, not learning, but interpreting such a piece, which is so, he wants something so exact.
So the way I learned this was I just opened my laptop with 3 different recordings of Bad Touch, the composer's own and 2 others I found online. As for the movements, I always looked at Casey's own recording first to see how he wants it. But because some of the actions he did were just so hard to nail at every single time, I had to find alternatives, and that's when I turned to the other recordings to see what the possibilities are, and then I just waddle through and find my own way of doing it.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to see how the composer's done it and to take bits and bobs from different recordings and to make your own interpretation. I think that's a really good approach to having done it. Have you ever actually performed it live before?
In fact, no.
Yeah, I mean, your recording has been absolutely brilliantly produced and made, and what I particularly liked was the shadow behind. Was that intentional, or was that because you did it on a black screen in a dark room, and I think that will be particularly striking during a live performance to have that shadow as a backdrop. Was that intentional? Is that something that the composer wanted, or is it just something that happened as you were making it?
That was just something that happened, and when I just watched the video after that, it was just striking to me.
Yeah,
that
I mean, it's a very high quality video recording that you've made there. I think I might have seen the piece done. Am I right in thinking that it's been done with glowing sticks, sort of glow in the dark sticks?
Yes. In fact, some recordings have done that, but
it doesn't mention it. I don't think it. I just took a quick look through the score. I haven't had a great deal of time to completely analyze it, but I don't think it states that you need glowing sticks, or it just states that you need the lamp, which you're controlling. Am I right with the foot?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's something that if you do perform the piece live, you need to think about the logistics of the piece. That means the backing track, the sound system, how you're going to set it up in the hall. If you're the one that controls it, if you have somebody else to control it, what sort of speakers is it coming through? At the speakers behind you, do you have a monitor or an in-piece so you can really hear the track? My advice for playing pieces with backing track would always be mostly either to use a monitor or even better to use an in-ear monitoring system. You know what I mean by that. Normally you can get them via a sort of radio system with an audio interface which connects to the laptop, to the speakers. and it's then you can really hear the intricate details of the tape in your ear, so it can be absolutely precise to the millisecond, the timing of the movements, because I think the power of a piece like this comes from simply the timing. It's all about getting it really, the power comes from your movements, how they interact with the tape. Even if it's slightly off, the audience notices that. And I think your version was extremely good. Extremely well placed and well timed. But I think there are nuances that you could push even more, and little subtleties that if he says, for example, he wants this in the right hand or the left hand, but one sound may be a little wood block, another sound may be a. You can also change the way that you do the movement that he says. It's an example. I don't know if that's actually true to the score, but there are little things that you can do. One thing that I noticed at the beginning, the very beginning. So before you even start, let's say playing, well, moving, he's actually marked where to turn on the light. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I think it's sort of a laughter sound in the tape. It's sort of a laugh, and then it's another laugh and another laugh, and it comes and then it goes away immediately. And I think it's very, very difficult to do. I know that, but you could time the way that you turn the light on and off exactly to the length of sound of the laugh in the tape. So if the laugh is whoop, then the light you have to really know where to place it, and not just listen to when it comes, and when you hear it, then press the foot to the light and then just turn it off after. It doesn't quite give the same effect. It's somehow what the composers put in terms of you turn the light on here. But it's interesting because the concept of the beginning of this piece is quite similar to a piece that I know and have played in many live performances, and I've recorded, which is Temashkal. It's a piece for maracas and tape by Javier Alvarez. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's also a piece with electronics. And the first minute and a half, 2 minutes-ish, the performer doesn't do anything. And that's the same as this piece. So you need to consider, what is it that's going to pull you in, pull an audience member in and draw you in the first minute and a half. Okay, it starts in darkness, which is already something nobody knows what to expect. When you hear a sound, it starts in darkness. The first light, when it comes on, has to be exactly with the tape. If it's not quite there, which was very close on this day, I don't know if it's something to do with the way that it's mixed, the video and the audio is mixed in the final video, but it could be even more precise. So it's exactly when the laugh comes, the light comes on, and when the sound goes away, the light goes away. I think I noticed, I think there's 4 or 5 of them, and on maybe the 5th, the light stays on, maybe a bit too long. It's something to consider. It's your interpretation. But I think everything that you do could be done even more. And you have to think about, if you do perform this live, the logistics of how you're going to set it up as well with the lamp. I think it says in the score I just read that it shouldn't be visible on your recording. It's everything is there. You had the time to set it up properly, so that it was as it. But I'm talking if you do perform this in a live performance, which I think you should, because this type of piece in a sort of longer context of a solo recital works really well. I wouldn't maybe go for an all theatrical program, but this shows certainly a different side to your playing and to your musicality. And I really think that the robotic style which you interpreted the piece in is exactly the right character. Another thing that I noticed, which I might suggest, is I think what you mentioned with the emotional detachment is absolutely correct, but I think there are some moments within the piece that maybe you could change the character just for that split second, that section of the piece. So for example, I think one section might be the ride symbol. There's just this one section which is, and suddenly for that, I don't know, 5 seconds, the character can change. But I noticed that you stayed quite, I mean, the piece, you have to be quite stiff, and you have to be quite, not stiff, but tense. You have to have some sort of attention to keep everything really exact and everything really in time. But for that one little section of the piece, maybe you could just relax, like completely, like as a jazz drummer would do it. He wouldn't stand there with the face completely robotic and then try. He'd totally loosen off. But as I said, the impact, the great part about this piece is if you time the change of your body language, of the way of how you're conveying the piece exactly with the tape. As soon as the tape goes, you can also change your facial expression. You relax a bit, you can drop the head a bit, and then as soon as the next thing is done, bam, you straight back to where you were. And this creates, in a theatrical piece like this, it really helps. It's the nuances really that really matter. As I said before, it is so precisely written. There is not much room for interpretation. So you have to find the moments where you feel you can do something to make that piece yours. And I think just little differences like that are gonna really help you. And I think in terms of the actual movements that you're doing, he's got, as I said before, he's got these specific set of rules that you need to do. But what I would do in your case is go listen to the tape without going through the motions. Just listen to the tape again really closely and quite to a substantial volume in your ear, and listen to the subtleties of the differences. If he's, let's say, down on the stick, and a similar sound is happening with where he's only marked, say, pretending to hit a drum with the left hand, then you can make those sounds, the gesture, I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well, but you can make the gesture similar. So I noticed that he does like the little sounds of the woodblock, the tick, tick, tick. You can really make it nuanced, and then the lower frequencies, you can really go and let loose a little bit more. But these are all just suggestions, and it's things that I think work for most types of pieces. I think this was actually one, maybe not the first of its kind, but I think Casey Cangalozzi was one of the first ones to do theatrical types of pieces like this. And I don't know if you know any other types of pieces. Have you played any more theatrical pieces like this?
This is my first one. Yeah,
you did a fantastic job, considering that's absolutely amazing. I mean, there's a, I can't remember the name of the composer, but I think it's called Ce n'est pas un bal. It's about somebody that is simulating sort of bouncing ball.
Alexandre Esperat.
Yes, there's a famous recording of him from the Trump competition doing that. You can check that out. And Homework by Francois Sarhan, the piece for body percussion and voice. And it's when you play pieces like this, you learn really how to change your character and your stage to give you a real stage presence and to draw the listener in. You can choose the version to stay completely robotic the whole way through. and that can be your version, and you can own that. But I think it's worth just taking a few moments to listen to where maybe you can change a different element, and the ride symbol moment is just one of them. But I think it's worth going back and looking at it. But really an amazing, I think, Tim, we'll have to move on, but it's really fantastic job. Very impressive.
Yeah, well done. Excellent work. Yeah, if you guys can access the video vault on the World Percussion Group website, there's actually a performance of Homework done by Konstantin Napolov. Like, he did it in one of the very first tours. It's some really good videos. So check the video vault on the website, and you can access it there. Great. Thank you, Huyen.
Thank you
Lovely.
so much.
I'm going to put you backstage. Thank you very much. All right. Next, we've got a little bit of mixing it up a little bit. We've got a little bit of Bart for you. Elin, hopefully you're here somewhere. There we go. Hello.
Yeah.
How are you? Are you there? Can you hear me? I think you might be on mute.
Yes.
Oh,
Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
I just turned on my microphone. Yes, I accidentally turned off. That's why.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yes.
No problem.
You might need to turn your
volume down.
Yes. Right. It's too loud. Wait. It's better now.
Testing.
Testing. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go. Whilst we sort that one out, we're going to go to Yu Chen and do Lotus instead. Then, Yu Chen, good afternoon. Hi.
Hi, team. Hi, Elliott.
Great. So, welcome, Yu Chen. So, I don't know if you again want to just briefly tell everyone about yourself, where you currently are, because I know you're not in your home country right now. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yep. So my name is Yuchen, and I'm from Taiwan. Now I've been staying in Germany for 4 years. I just finished my doctor concert examen, like the performance degree. Yep. And now I'm teaching the music school in Germany.
Fantastic. Great.
Whereabouts in Germany are you based? Whereabouts
Sorry?
in Germany are you based?
I'm now in Freiburg. It's the southwest in Germany. Yep.
Great. And do you want to say a little bit about what you're going to play today? I believe we've got, I'm not sure if it's the first, it can't be the first, but certainly one of the first composers for WPG, because you're going to be playing your own piece. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I composed this piece called Lotus, and it's basically a little bit from my background because it's based on the story of Buddhism. So there are many stories about Shakyamuni, this god in the Buddhism, and he says something really wise, and even the sky is like touched, so there are flowers coming down. So I written it with this choreography at the beginning and at the end. And there is a very important concept in the Buddhism religion. Says there are 3 layers of how you see things. Like first you think, okay, like the water is exactly the water, but if you understand more, it comes to the second layer, and you think, oh, the water actually could be ice, could be rain, could be river or something, or steam. And after that, you will understand that actually all of this form of water is endless with water itself. So it's kind of my composition concept. So it's basically divided into 3 parts, and it's described these 3 layers of understand things.
Okay, brilliant. Yep. This is a rather long piece, so I'm just going to pick a few segments, if that's all right. Yu Chen, do you want me to start from the beginning? Okay, brilliant.
Yes, please.
And if anyone's interested in this piece, you can that's watching, you can contact Yu Chen directly. He's on Facebook. So, all right. Here we go.
Great. Well, first of all, well done. It's no small thing composing your own piece like that. It's a long piece. I think we only heard some sections of it now, didn't we? Sort of the beginning, middle, and the end, a bit from the first, second, and third section.
Yes.
Right. Great.
Yes.
I mean, the first thing that I want to know when I watch you play this piece for the first time was, of course, the concept, which you obviously explained before, which now it does make a bit more sense. It's clearly a storytelling piece. It's not a piece, I think, that seems to me that you could put on an album. It's too visual. I mean, it's quite interesting that sort of the majority of the people that I'm listening to today are playing sort of theatrical pieces. It is a theatrical piece in a way. And the content, actually the music that you've written technically seems to be extremely simple. I mean, it's written in a very simple way. Therefore, for such a piece as a 12-minute setup piece, you have to do everything you can in your power to bring out every single element of what it is that you want to say. So the first question I wanted to ask was, is it the finished product, or are you still working on it? Is it subject to change? Are you still thinking about changing some stuff? Are you wanting some advice on the actual composition side of the piece, or just the way that you play it?
Yes, I think also the potential of this piece, because I composed it in 2020, and it's already been like 3 years ago, and because it's for my master recital, and when I finish it, I just kind of like leave it
a little
bit.
Would you like to sort of make some changes, or maybe, because I'm looking at the score and it looks a bit like a sort of not a rough draft, but a first draft. Is it handwritten?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think you'll want to change about it, or to add in, or to maybe clean up, or is this sort of potentially your statement so far of what you want to say with this piece?
I think if I could still add or change something that makes it better, then I would love to have it.
I can give you some things that maybe I think might be an option, a suggestion, something to think about.
Yes.
The first thing is the length of the piece. It's, I think, for the content, you could condense it a little bit more. I think you need to, for a piece like that, especially a 12-minute piece, needs to really, you need to do everything in your power to grab the audience and to keep them there with you. And I think for a 12-minute piece, with something which is relatively simple like that, might be a bit too long. You've got a lot of ideas which you've developed really nicely. It's got form. It's quite clearly a sort of ABA type, because you go back in the end to the sort of gestures which you do and back, but I think you can still condense it a bit in terms of the content. The second thing that maybe springs to mind is the actual setup itself. I like the fact that you've got the two gongs at the back, and you do the opening statement, which is the gesture. You hit the gongs with your fist, you let it die down. That's great. One thing that I could say, maybe for an audience is quite a visual piece, you could maybe lift the gongs a little bit higher, maybe take a wider stance, and really make even more of an opening statement. So really, really hit it, let it ring, because what you're doing now doesn't quite convince me. And I think you can make it work, this type of music and this type of piece. But I think you have to take it a little bit, and the gestures as well. the beautiful hand gestures, but I think you could do even more. Like if you go to the left, really, go down and take your time, which you are taking time, possibly even a bit too much time. You could move it a little bit more towards the setup. I think was not my issue with the piece, but a suggestion maybe that each section could go a bit more.
Like with the
standing
stronger
still a little
statement.
bit. So you do the gestures, and that's all great. Then the setup, you've got 4 or 5 cowbells. 5 cowbells. Then you've got the trap tray in the middle, and then you've got 5 wood blocks. So the first thing about the sound, one thing that I don't know if it would be too uncomfortable for you to play it like this, but for the sound and visually for an audience, because it is a visual piece, have you thought about suspending them, like maybe on a stand where they're kind of hanging? Because if you put wood blocks or cowbells on a stand face down, you're always you've only got the potential of the stick and or the mallets or whatever on a tray here. Whereas if they're hanging, you could maybe hang them, or maybe not even hanging, but you put them a bit higher and slightly on an angle. Then there's more potential to do something different with your gestures, and particularly with the cowbells. If it's hanging, it might sound a bit more free. It's going to get a bit more sound, which I think you need. I like the texture of the sticks at the beginning. So you're using this light, sort of high frequency, pingy sort of sound, and then you take the softer stick, which is nice. It's another color, and I can see that you're trying to do a bit more of a legato movement, a little bit more wrist, which is great. But like I said, I think you could do it even more. If you're doing something in the left hand and then you've just got something simple in the right hand, I think if you just stand there and just play it as you've written it, it doesn't work as well as if you're really performing and you really. So if your left hand is just doing this and it's such a simple thing, then and your right hand's got boom, boom, then you need to make the difference between the two hands, and that will make a difference to the sound as well, because you'll have it within you. The audience will feel it, and you will transport that through the instrument. So if you've got something left hand, big round movements, you can do big gestures. It's your piece. You can do absolutely whatever you want with it. And I think that this is something that I think with your performance doesn't quite convince me, is the way that you sell it. I think the content and everything is the simplistic idea, and the simplicity of the piece is all great, it's all fine. But then because it's so simple and it's a 12-minute setup piece, we're not going shredding all across an instrument or anything. This is something really simplistic, and I think it's a beautiful piece of writing, and it's clearly got a concept, and I think you can just sell it a bit more. And that's to do with your body language on stage. It's like what I was saying in the Bad Touch, and she clearly had a specific way of performing it, which fit to the music, and I think you can find that way a little bit better, or well, not better, but you can find a more convincing approach to being able to do it. I think I noticed technically, I don't know if that was intentional, but for example, when you've got the beginning cowbells with the stick, and you've got this simple rhythm, dum 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 dum, or something like that, and then it gets you add more embellishments, things like that. Sometimes the rhythm can get a little bit unstable. Is that intentional?
No, it's just I didn't perform it really exactly and like stable and simple as it
I mean,
should be.
I think it's like, I'm sure every single one of your teachers told you that's just metronome practice. Sometimes a few of the double stops, if you listen closely, sounded a bit like flams. So little technical things. When you change the wood block, you change the hand on the loud thing. Try not to make it so that you hear the difference between changing from the right to the left hand. You've got to keep the line going. Small technical things, overall great performance. You can just give a bit more of a show, I would say.
All right, thanks, Elliot.
you.
Well done, you, Jem. All right, we'll put you backstage. Elin, let's try you again. Hopefully you've got some headphones. Let's try again. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I hope you this time is better. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I can hear myself as well.
Hello.
Oh, maybe that's better. Hello? All right, let's bring her back in a little while. Okay, Megan, we're going to go to Megan. We're going to go to the US for a little bit. Hey, Megan.
Hi.
How you doing? You okay?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you. So this one's quite apt, actually, because obviously, as I've mentioned at the beginning, Elliott's going to cover for Vanessa. But Elliott's actually performed the piece Megan's going to play, and you're the only two that have performed it on the whole planet. So that's quite cool. But before we do that, Megan, do you just want to sort of just introduce yourself to the program and the people watching at home? And maybe just talk a little bit about Rooted. I know Elliott knows, but people at home won't know. So, and then I'll try and cue up the video. Elliott, how much do you want to hear of this? I know you know it.
It's absolutely up to you. I like the piece, the whole. I'm happy to listen to as much of it.
All right, let's listen. It's not too long, is it? Is it?
Not really.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. I'll go backstage and cue up the video. So yeah, over to Megan for a little bit.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I grew up, but I'm about to graduate from the University of North Texas with my bachelor's in music education. So I have a really strong rudimental drumming background and chamber percussion ensemble, wind band, that kind of thing. So I'm really excited. I've already learned so much just from watching two people play about becoming a better solo player and getting exposed to as much music and as many different people as possible. And so this piece, I guess you know a lot about it, but it's for 2 snare drums and glockenspiel and electronic, and it's really cool. It has a different snares on, snares off, muted, unmuted kind of thing, and there's some glockenspiel in there. And the point is the track is the one thing that stays pretty consistent throughout the piece with a very consistent mood, and it's kind of what keeps us grounded in our lives, even when things are changing. And it has a really cool texture, I think, throughout the whole thing. And I like the style of in between, kind of an orchestra and rudimental thing. So, yeah.
All right, great. So here is Megan's performance of Rooted. This is by Brian Bloom. Actually, it's recently been published, I think, by Tapspace. I saw the other day. So that's pretty cool too. All right.
Great. I thought maybe we could just pause it there. I could say a few things, and then we could play the glockenspiel section, if that's okay with you. Bravo.
Yeah.
Amazing
Thank you.
job. Great job. So, yeah, as you know, obviously I know this piece quite well. So there's a few things that maybe I could suggest. A few things that I think are essential, first of all, and then a few things that I think are just my personal preference. But if you want to hear them, you're welcome to hear them. So the first thing is the setup and the sounds. I think your snare drum, the two snare drums could be, you've got quite a wide gap between them. I think particularly for, I know we didn't play it now, but for the last section where you're crossing over, maybe you could just push them a bit closer together. Be maybe the first thing. I think the sound is nice. The two different sounds. Obviously, he notes in the score. One is muted, or he puts muffled or muted or something like that, without snare. And the other one is obviously just a standard snare drum. You have to try and find, like you said, it's a cross between sort of a classical snare drum sound and a rudimental sound. So it goes immediately after the first minute and a half or so. It goes into a rudimental style. So you have to kind of tune the snare drum quite high to get the nuances. I think in your mix, and I think this looks like a home recording, and in your mix, the snare drum sounds, the snare drum sound is very good, and the way that you mic everything is great. But I think in the mix is a bit distant. I mean, I'm talking just in terms of making a video now. I had to make video recording for exactly what you're doing now for the World Percussion Group in 2021, this piece. And I had to try and find a way to mix the snare drum. It's to do with your interpretation, I guess, of how you feel the snare drum mixes with the tape. If you think that it's accompanimental to the tape, or if you think the tape's accompanimental to the snare drum. In my opinion, you're the soloist in this piece, and the track is in the background. But it sounds to me like the snare drum's in the background and the track is in the foreground. So I think if you were to do another video, or in a live performance situation, you need to check balances and stuff as well. That would be the first thing. And when he says muted, I know this is a kind of maybe a stylistic, interpretative, subjective thing. But I personally feel that the cloth covering most of the drum kind of kills the sound of the drum. I mean, we still want to hear the drum sound like a drum, and not just like a skin and an empty shell. I'm not saying that it sounds like that.
No, yeah.
So my solution to that was not to put a cloth on the drum, but to use, you know what, moon gel?
Yeah.
Yeah, to use the little moon gel. I think I put 3 along the edge. Normally, moon gel actually works in the center of the drum because it doesn't, it still lets the drum ring a bit, but obviously you can't put it in the center because you're playing quite close to it. So 3 around the edge on your side would take the edge off the sound, give you the articulation that you need, and it might help you to create the difference of that drum and the other drum as well. So in terms of the actual technicalities, you've got great hands, very impressive technique, and everything's there. The first, I'm pulling the strings, to be honest, and being very picky and everything, but I think the first phrase, I'd have to get the score up. First of all, for my taste, it could be a bit softer. And the first thing, obviously, before we talk about maybe subtle differences and nuances, differences in articulation, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that it's really, beat by beat, exactly in time. And I think there were some slight moments where it could be a bit tighter. It's already very good, but I think you could push it to that next level. So the first phrase I think could be softer, and you've got this. I think it was slightly. You maybe played something slightly different to what was actually written there. I might be wrong. I'd have to get.
I think it was like the second phrase. There was something.
That was a mistake. It wasn't intended. I just wondered if you learned it wrong. It's part 8. I think I see it's part 8 here. Just make sure that you really end the end of that roll together with the tape. And the whole of the first section is the. Sorry, I'm trying to get the screen back up now. It's the orchestrally written section. So you can go down in dynamic. It's difficult, but you can really play and make differences between the quintuplets and, for example, when you have this. Let me get the score back up in bar 8, 9, 10. And then you've got the triplet. You can sort of in the hand change the articulation to bring out the difference of the triplet and the other person. So, for example, you can be quite tight and quite tense in the fingers for the to get the articulation in the 30-second notes, and then in the triplet, you can sort of relax it a little bit, and you get more of the sort of character of the phrase, and I think it helps a bit with the rhythm as well. So they're just little suggestions, little, subtle instabilities that you have. I think with the metronome work, where you put the metronome, say not on the. I'm trying to think in an American way of saying not the quarter note, but like the 30, the 16th note section. You've got.
Yeah.
Then you'll really manage. I'm sure you're practicing with metronome. You don't need me to say that. I think the one thing that disturbed me a little bit was when you did the crescendo, before changing to the other drum. The first thing I want to know is, did you turn the snares off then?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I think I noticed it. But I think for me, it sounds a bit too. The rhythm is not broad enough. It's not but you're playing like almost the 16th note there. And I think you need to make the rhythm a bit wider. I think in general with your version, when you have a 16th note, let's say doubles, or something like that, you can think them more compact, sort of slightly closer together. And when it's the triplets, you have to think a bit broader. It sounds obvious, but a way of getting that also is, I think I have one second. I have a practice pad here. I don't know if you can see this, but it's just to open up the hand a bit more in the triplets, and then when you've got the 6, you can make the doubles much tighter in the hand, and you'll get this. And I think in the first phrase as well, in the Swiss Army triplets, you can stay quite open in the hand. We'll get different sounds and probably a slightly more stable character than if you stay in the same position and in the same sort of way of playing throughout it. It will be my general tips, let's say, for the first section. And besides that, it's just, all the 16th notes slightly more compact, and the triplets are slightly more open in the hand. And the quintuplets as well in the first section, before you move on to the other drums. So I think it's a good time to listen to a bit of the glockenspiel and maybe just a bit of the glock and a bit of the ending as well.
Yeah, I think the very end would be good. I'm not.
Should we hear then the second glockenspiel section and into the final?
I'll just play the glockenspiel bit now. Yeah. Give us a wave when you're ready to stop.
I'm not muted, am I? Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, great. It's obviously this middle section is in a piece like this. It's a little bit bare. There isn't much going on. The audience has got their eyes on you. You need to know what to do and how to hold yourself when you're not playing, as well. I feel you a little bit too introvert. I think you need to even if you're just standing there, you need to have a presence. And this is the sort of thing that I was saying to the people that are doing this sort of theatrical type pieces. Even when you're not playing, you're still playing. It's still music going on, and you need to give it a bit more of a convincing attitude towards it, and body language that's sort of projecting outwards and not inwards is number one. And I like the way that you phrase the way, the glockenspiel, and it phrased very nicely. Again, because it's quite a simple little section, which it does make sense in the grand context of the piece, but because the glockenspiel comes in the tape and then you play a glockenspiel sound as well, you can't really tell who's playing what. So again, you have to make that a bit more convincing with the movements. You can, prepare the stick before you play, something like that. So Jim tells me that we've only got 3 minutes left. Could we just see 1 minute at the end, the last minute? Because it's a great section. Great. I missed a bit at the end there because of the connection, but have seen it before. Brilliant. I mean, the one thing I would say is right before the last section, before you go down to the pianissimo, be ready. You've got the and then I saw you last minute just going straight to the drum. You've got to give the audience the impression that you are in control and not the tape is controlling you. And that's the issue with a lot of I think it's what you have to do with all pieces of tape, is give the impression that you're controlling the tape and you're in control of everything they're doing. So really, as soon as you do that, you're ready for the next section. And then I think it will come across a little bit better. But I think technically, pretty much, it's just the last 5% that I think you need to clean a bit. It's the minute details. I think generally the whole rhythmic structure is there, but I think within, let's say, a beat, you can clean it up a bit. so you can make the details within each bar slightly tighter, and that will again, it's a rudimental solo. That's 90% of the job. Is making sure that you're really on it, and I think you're doing an absolutely fantastic job. It's a great, it's amazing to hear the piece being played by somebody else after I had to studied it and learned it myself with no recordings or anything like that. It's great to hear somebody else doing it, and I think it's a fantastic interpretation. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was so great to hear your thoughts about it and everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well done, Megan. Thank you. All right. Let's put you backstage. Now, one thing I love about WPG is that you can literally be in America at one point and then you can just go to Poland just like that. It's pretty cool. So, Tomasz, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Do you want to just say a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and sort of your career thus far? And I'll queue up your video. Maybe just talk a little bit about your piece. And this is going to be another composition of your own, so that's cool. We've got 2 in 1 session. So yeah, I'll just go backstage and rig that up. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So hello. I'm from Poland. My name is Tomasz. I'm currently doing my master's in Katowice, Poland, but I was very fortunate to make use of Erasmus, and I studied in Stuttgart for some time and in Amsterdam. And actually the piece that we'll see tonight is, I wrote it in Amsterdam during my exchange. The piece itself, it's called Ludium M1. For English, it's also a play of words. If I would have to translate it for English, it would be lute M1, because it could be like prelude or postlude, whatever. So the piece is for tambourine and electronics. Also, it's a theatrical piece as well. And the 90% of the sounds are it's just my voice, one sentence looped, stretched, and everything, and it's translated to "I can do better." So I guess that's the most important thing about this one.
All right, great. So let's hear the piece. Do you want me to play a certain part of this, or?
Well, for sure, if we have to pick just parts, then from the beginning, and we see how far we can go, since it's 5 minutes.
5 minutes, so you can play the whole thing if you want.
I would love to, yeah.
I would like to see the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, we have time. That's fine. Okay, whole thing.
Mnie więcej. Stać mnie na więcej. Stać mnie więcej. Stać mnie na więcej. Stać mnie na więcej. Stać mnie 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 na więcej. Stać mnie na więcej.
Stać mnie na więcej. Stać mnie na więcej. Stać
Wow, amazing! Wow, brilliant piece.
Thank you.
Congratulations! It's yeah, that'll be a good one to put into like I said to the others as well, into a longer recital program. It's your piece. It's got a theatrical element. Yeah, something that's really personal to you. And I think you've got a great technique, and obviously you've written a great piece. I have a couple of questions actually.
Yeah.
So it seems very much. Is it just a piece that's just only you want to play because it's so specific? You're controlling the sounds. It's a graphic score.
Yeah.
So you haven't. I haven't had a score made accessible to me. Do you intend on publicizing the piece so that other people, making it accessible to other performers, or is it something you want to keep for yourself?
Honestly, that's a hard question. First of all, that was more of an etude, nothing more. But then I just liked it. Already, one friend of mine performed it for his lessons for live electronics, actually, lessons in Amsterdam. But yeah, I didn't really think it would be something that someone else would want to perform, maybe.
Or is it the same every time you perform it?
It's since it's live electronics, it's always different. There are sections, and I'm just switching on the controller those sections, and every time, because it has to be mic for the tambourine to change it and everything. Then later, close to the ending, there's part only for electronics where I modulate tensions and everything. But most of all, I didn't make the scores because of the time. I knew that most likely I will be the only person to perform it. But
well, it's something
if someone...
to think about. It's something to think about because you've got a lot of the piece has a lot of potential. I don't know if you're willing to, but I mean, you say it's different every time you perform it because it's totally improvisatory, but I guess that means that you're willing to subject to kind of change certain elements of the piece still before maybe put it out there. I mean, if that's the case, there's a few things I can suggest. I've only done one piece for tambourine with electronics, a solo tambourine piece. That was Casey Candelozzi again. Another piece, a cool gadget, you know it?
I know it. I didn't play it, but it's a cool piece.
Yes, it's a great piece, and it's about the same length as your piece, but it's completely different. Obviously, it's a set tape. It's very specific, as is most of Candelozzi's pieces. It's specifically written, and I think you, from what I see of what you're doing, you've got the ability to do anything, pretty much anything you want with the instrument. So if you're willing to sort of change some elements of the piece, I think you can show that even more because you have such an ability at the instrument. I don't think you've shown everything you can do there. I don't know if there's something that you could add. It's your choice, but maybe a rhythmic section or something where you can really show everything that you can do, because I think the stuff that you've got really makes sense and it works to do all this stuff, but when you actually get going, you can really show something like to its full potential. And I think like you're 90% there with what you're doing now.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you want to play a bit around more with different. It's 5-minute piece, which isn't that long, and when it's quite a spacious piece as well. So there's a lot of moments where you're stood still. There's a lot of theatre involved. I don't know if you've thought about maybe adding some different sounds. I know when I did the other tambourine piece with Candelozzi, he didn't say at all to change the tambourine. In his own version, he didn't do it. But I actually used 3 different tambourines, and that was about a 5-minute piece as well, because I thought that there were certain sections that had like really high frequencies, and I think there's a certain like dryness to a tambourine. I even sat down in the section of the piece, put it on my lap, really make it dry and articulate. And not all tambourines, I think you can show, because it's tambourine, there's only so much you can do with it. Small drum, metal attached. You can get the more possibilities you can show into better. So I think I noticed that around 2.5 minutes, I was trying to time it 2 minutes 40. You went more into it. It was a sort of quiet section.
Yeah.
A little bit more interested in like a lot of thumb. I mean, maybe there you could sort of take a washier sound, not as an articulate sound, and something if you want, or as soon as as I was thinking to the people, because it is a theatrical piece, there is a lot of a technical element involved in this piece. It's not like the bad touch, for example, which is really specific body gestures. There is a technical element involved, but it is again a theatrical performance. So when you have those sections, and you're doing it already, you're doing it fantastically well. There, at the beginning where you have big the fist sounds, and then you keep the hand there, and then it sort of knocks the hand up and then back down. This stuff is great for the visual effect, but I think you could go even more. For example, when you do the punches, because you do it and then you go back down, and I think you could make the distance even bigger. So like punch the audience in the face, like really hold it. It's a piece, but we're not playing tambourine in an orchestra now. I mean, you definitely wouldn't be asked back to play with an orchestra if you did that. But it's a piece of solo tambourine. So really show the audience, bring it back, when it's the introverted section, really you can change the body language, become more, it's the only word I can think of.
Yeah.
And then explode when you need to. So, yeah, the things I would suggest are the differences of sound, if you want. Maybe another section which shows a bit more technical things that you can do. The other thing I wanted to ask you was the thing that you're controlling.
Yeah.
I found it a bit strange that that's facing away from you and you have to reach out. And also it's facing the audience. In a live performance, it's like the audience doesn't want to see that. So I think it's better you give the effect that, yes, you're controlling it, but I think put the stand so that it's facing towards you.
Okay.
And then do it a bit more subtly than reaching over every time.
Okay.
One thing, just a little observation. Is it time, or do we still have time?
I'm not sure.
No, you got loads of time. I just wanted to say that was the quote of the day. Like, punch the audience in the face. That's all. See ya.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's the same sort of things as the other things, but I think that there are because it's your piece, and you can do absolutely anything you want with it. Like, the world's your oyster. I mean, you can, if you want to incorporate different sounds, if you want to, take 3-4 different tambourines, or see what you can do to push the limits. And when you have these different things, and as I said, you are doing it already, and you let the arm floppy and go floppy when it's by your sides, and these things it's gold for a piece like this within, let's say, a longer performance. And if you did it live, is it intended that you would always do it in darkness, or
actually? No, I didn't do it live yet, actually, only for my friends, but not during a performance. But it's not really intended. I don't think it matters that much. It works amazing, and it would be awesome to perform it in the darkness, but I don't think it's very needed.
Yeah.
Preferably,
it's
the
nice,
performer
right?
should be the main focus either way.
Yeah. I like the effect. If you're going for a theatrical performance, why not play with the lights if you can? If you could control the lights even better. But yeah, I mean, there's so much scope and possibilities, just endless things that you could do. And they're just a few suggestions. I guess you would always use the mic next to the tambourine. Maybe you could play around with the mic sounds even more. I think you are taking it away, bringing it close, changing the dynamic, doing the effects. I don't know if because you're already so technically, I'm terrible with that sound systems and stuff like that. But you clearly know what you're doing. If you want to play around a bit more with the mic.
There was one idea about that was suggested by someone in Amsterdam as well, to just take pickup mic, so no one would see the microphone. But I thought that maybe for the audience to have at least something to keep an eye at, so they would understand that I'm playing with electronics, would be beneficial, but I'm still debating that.
Well, it didn't disturb me at all. Seeing the mic, it's fine. But what I'm suggesting is that I don't actually know if it's possible, but if you do some sort of effects with the mic,
there are quite a few reverbs in there already, but that was only that. I didn't do much with it, but I could definitely, especially if I would make it longer. And to put in some more technical parts, which I think would be this softer section with less sounds, maybe would be nice.
I know in the Kangaloozy, I can only compare it with that piece because it is a similar nature. It is a similar nature, and there were some rhythmic sections in that kind of showed your chops in a way. And you're already proving that you can do everything with the tambourine. So why not just go ahead and if you're doing it as a one-piece statement, if you do a second movement or something like that, to do something else, you can do it in that. If you want this to be an entity which is quite free, I think, I mean, a second movement's not a bad idea either. If you want to add different tambourines or different effects, a stool, you know, stuff, whatever you want. I mean, it's yours.
That's a great idea, actually. Second movement.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it slightly more stable, let's say, in because this is it seems to me like a second movement actually. This a more free, or you know, it could also work as a prelude. But you show a lot with the tambourine, but I don't think you show everything. I think there's definitely some more possibilities that you can show there. But in general, yeah, it's some crazy stuff. I don't know how you can understand the technicalities of the system and everything like that is way beyond me. So you know, big respect for that.
Thank you.
So yeah, that would be basically my only, let's say, suggestions. It's not, you know, you don't feel free to leave any of it, but I don't know if there are any more pieces in a similar way. Do you know any other pieces of tambourine? Did you do any research?
I didn't, but also I'm not sure. Also, everyone I asked said the same thing as you. Like, there's nothing like that.
Well, there's specifically nothing that you're controlling whilst you're playing. I think there's many pieces now, and there's an increasingly alarming amount of pieces being written for percussion and backing track, which is all great. People will understand and know how to do it. But that's the one thing that you've got to be aware of if you're actually going to sell the piece if you want the piece to be performed if you want other percussionists to interpret the piece. If it's a graphic score, you're going to get a million different versions, probably, which is great. It's a great thing. But let's say if you added a second movement and you made it a bit more conventional, then it will give that element of you know, you really showing and knowing what you're doing.
Sorry to interrupt, Elliott. Oh, he's gone.
That was a big interruption.
Yeah, big interruption. We've actually got our first question from D. He. Says, have you considered motion sensors and foot pedal instead of the control panel if you want your hand free all the time?
Actually, I kind of did, but at the same time, this controller was the only thing I had, and I had to get the knobs for the electronics part. So I thought I will just stay with this, and since I have to use my hand either way, I can make use of it for the whole piece, so it's not suddenly disturbing. But actually, that would be very fun to switch sections seamlessly. That made a lot of problems also for me for timings. I had to make some rubatos before changing the sections, so all the hits are in time, even when I have to go to the controller. So that's definitely maybe for the second movement.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't disturb me the fact that you're doing it with your hand. And I think you integrate that as part of the piece, as part of your show, let's say, your performance. Because you're still in, let's say, in character when you do it. And I think I just think you need to turn it around, because it's so much easier for you to do it there. And also, I think it is a bit like, if the audience sees you and then a glowing panel full of not like controllers and everything, unless that's what you're after. If you
I overthought it, honestly, because I have like 8 pads and I just press them one by one, going from the down to the top. That's why I thought it would be cool to face to the audience. But after this few months, I realized that no one will remember.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you do it, then, and if that's your idea that that's what you want to do to show the audience, don't do it slightly on an angle like when you film. Shove it in their faces. You know, really, if you want that to be a part of the performance, then you need to make the gesture of going over and twisting it up part of the whole thing. They need to be able to properly see it, because now it's kind of on the side. You can sort of see it, and it's like, what's that doing there? Like, you know, either face it towards you and try and keep it out the way, or just show it, like, and make it part of the performance. But with this theatrical pieces, there's no halfway point. Like, you can't just do something kind of, because it will never get convincing.
You're right.
Because it doesn't have quite the depth of Rachmaninoff piano concerto or something like that. And we need to take every little thing, and it's what I was trying to explain with the other own composition, the Lotus, that, you know, if you're doing these gestures and stuff, you know, which is a good idea, it's a nice idea and everything, you have to make it convincing. And you do make it very convincing, but there's certain elements like that I think that you can, if you make a decision, show the audience that you've made that decision, and that's it.
Yeah.
They can like it or not, but that's what you're doing. You know what I mean? And I know that only because of experience, that when I was trying to figure out what to do and when with the tambourine piece, the other one, you know, it was I did it at Trump, actually. I did it part of the longer, the 45-minute recital one, and it was just something that I wanted as a different element, and I did a lot of work with it with my teacher back then, and I think we just worked out that you need to keep their attention. You're going to lose them quickly if you don't do something like really obvious, like, and if you really freeze what you're doing and everything. But if you want to change and go into it, to really do it 100%, do it, and you'll make it really convincing. But I think it's got a lot of potential, and you can have a thing, take or leave any of the suggestions, but I think it's already very unusual but great piece.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well done, Tomasz. Great. All right, I'll just put you backstage. Elliott, do you have like a couple of minutes just to run over just for any questions or anything like that? Or have you got to head off?
No.
Okay, cool. So I don't think she's here anymore, but if there's anyone in the Xenakis rehearsal, Megan, I know you're in the Xenakis rehearsal. So if there's anyone in that, feel free to jump over to Zoom and start that without me. I'm probably going to just be a little late, just a couple of minutes, just for any last questions. But we're going to try Elin again. We're going to go back for a third time. Hello.
Third time lucky.
I can't hear you. Are you muted? Third time lucky. If not, what we'll do, I'll just play the video, Elliott, and then you can comment, sure. And so Elin doesn't miss out on the opportunity completely. Okay. All right, so we'll sort this out for another class, Elin. But what I'll do, I'll just play your video, and then Elliott can make some comments. All right. You're welcome. So let me just cue this one up. And here we are. All right, Elliott, have you got your mute on? I
Great. So we didn't manage to get the. Can you hear me? Okay. It doesn't work when you turn off the mute. No, it doesn't work, no. Because there's a few things that I would like to sort of discuss with you, but in that case, it's just going to be me talking to you.
Elin, you could maybe type any answers in the private chat, then you can read it, if that helps. If they're quick questions, Elliot, that is.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not.
No. I mean, it's well done. That's it's not easy. That is not easy. That's it's all. I mean, Bach in general is obviously always much more difficult. The difficulties are always 10 times more difficult when you try to do it on a marimba, if it wasn't already horrendously difficult. And you're playing a piece that was, written for clavichord, and you're trying to do the lines on a marimba, and it was very musical. It was extremely well played. So I take my hat off to you for that. So yeah, an amazing effort. I think the one of the things I wanted to ask you was, first of all, about if you've listened to much Bach recordings of original recordings of the piece, and if you have, which recordings have you listened to, and in what style do they play? Yeah, I'll just wait for you to type in. But I can sort of continue talking. I think it's obviously the key with this is marimbas, trying to play Bach. Of the great recordings as you can. That doesn't mean just listening to any recordings, because so many people that don't really understand the music or attempt to play it. And I think if you fill your head with only the greatest, the people that really know how to play it, I think there are recordings of this piece by Trevor Pinnock,
All right. We're a little bit jinxed on this one, Elin, because it appears Elliott's now lost his signal as well. So sorry about that. Let's see what we'll do. First session luck. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, have you, whilst you're there, just we're waiting for Elliott to come back, just maybe just type in the chat what you've listened to. That would be really good. Whilst we're waiting for everyone else to come back as well, this is sort of for the WPG guys really, but just so you know, actually it's a general announcement. The schedule for this season will always be as per the website. If you go to the homepage and go to the dates and details, and then scroll down to the WPG schedule, the dates and the times, that's where we're going to take it from. That's the master sheet. So ignore any Google sheets you have. What's published on the website is what will happen. And that should be the same on the Facebook page. If I actually post the right one, which I have done now. So let's see if Elliott's back in the room. He is here. Hello.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
That's all right. I think you just lost signal. I was just holding the fort. Yeah, as you were.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure where I really got up to, but I just basically asked you if you're listening to recordings, and if you are to only listen to really the greatest recordings that are available, and the rest you can leave. And that's where you need to get your ideas from, and also to read. I wanted to ask you, do you read anything, any sources of material from that era, or things about Baroque music and the stylistic things? Have you read any books at all? Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I'll wait for your response from the chat now. But yeah, I mean, there's many things to your disposal. I think one of the main ones that was suggested to me for reading was it's called Der Vollkommene Kapellmeister by Johann Mattheson, and that will really help you as well to understand more of this style of music. But enough on that. About the way that you actually played, it was losing connection. Good. I think.
Yeah, you did for a minute, but you're back again, so that's okay.
Sorry, I don't know why it's been.
That's okay. Don't worry. That's fine. It happens.
Yeah, I think your interpretation was very beautiful. It's very beautifully phrased. I think obviously you did it under tempo compared to how it's played on a clavichord or on a piano, or how it was originally intended to be played. Was going to be one of my questions as well, is to it's the way that you interpret Bach. Are you interpreting in the way that somebody who's the way that the piece was written for the original instrument, or are you interpreting it in a way that you think that Bach would have written it for the Did you manage to get any of that, or am I just cutting out all the time?
Yeah, you're kind of cutting out. All right, we're gonna wrap that one up then. Thank you, Elin. Vanessa will hear this anyway later on in the tour anyway. So I'm sure, Elliott, you wouldn't mind maybe just corresponding with Elin like outside of this session, just for a little bit more feedback. But that's great. I'm going to bring everyone on just to see if, or no, I'm not, because Elliott's gone. So I'm going to wrap the session up now. So thank you everyone for watching. And I hope you've gained a lot from this. Sorry about the technical issues just towards the end, but hopefully for the majority of the stream you managed to get everything. So same time, same place. Next Saturday we have, who do we have next Saturday? Let's have a look. We are with Anders Khan Elton from Copenhagen. Anders, amazing percussionist, and I'm sure you're going to really enjoy that session. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy the performances as well. Just so you know, we've got Remy Besson playing next week. Elin's going to be playing again. We've got Hunter Gross, David Fernandez from Venezuela, Albin Rosenqvist from Sweden, and Elliott Gaston-Ross as well. So some amazing performances next week. So I will catch you up then, same time, same place. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.